Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. Welcome to sunny Portugal. Welcome to my holiday where I've just sat, like I imagine most of you have done, and watched Arsenal versus Newcastle on the Arsenal app. And of course, some of you might have been lucky enough to actually been there at the game, but those who weren't probably watched it on the app as I just did. And I wanted to pop on and talk about the game because it was a good one, a good win for Arsenal, winning 3-2. Some good, some bad, some average in the game, but I did want to pop on and do something, record something for you. As I said before I went away, this isn't going to happen every single day. I'm just not going to be able to do that. Upload stuff of anywhere near as regularly as I usually do. But when I can, when I do get the opportunity, like now, I thought I will try and take it and at least get some content out there for you. And there is plenty to talk about at the moment, isn't there? Of course, since me leaving England, it's all kicked off. Viktor Gyokeres has flown in. He's signed, he's flown out, he's arrived in Singapore. He was presented in front of thousands of Arsenal fans today before the game against Newcastle, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to talk about that. We'll talk about Reiss Nelson, appears to be on his way for Fulham. No minutes at all for Reiss. He is still with the squad over in Fulham. Didn't come on, over in Singapore, sorry. Didn't come on today. I think only him and Samuel Okonga were the two players who didn't. All the academy boys came on, but Reiss didn't. I think that tells its own story in terms of how close things might be getting for him to return to Fulham. Talks ongoing about that. So we'll have a little bit of a chat on him. We'll talk about today's game. Some really good points in Max Dowman. What a cameo that was from Max Dowman, of course, winning the penalty that won the game for Arsenal. But it wasn't just that. There was 2-3 occasions where he just sparkled and showed everyone why there is so much excited about him. It's going to be a real challenge for Mikel Arteta to keep a lid on the expectation when it comes to Max Dowman. It's going to be a real challenge for him. It really, really is. Because you look at him, you watch him, you see this cameo today, and it is, of course, just a one-off, but you see that cameo and you just think he's ready. You know, he can play, he can hurt Premier League teams. He did it today. I mean, Joe Linton, the look on Joe Linton's face after he gave away the penalty was just like, what the hell's just happened? What's this kid just done to me? And you know, and that's a big bruiser like Joe Linton, who we know is a very physical player, and Dowman's just not afraid to beat people, run at them, and yeah, brilliant. But we'll talk about him a little bit later on in the show. So we'll start with the game and sort of my immediate reaction to the game. I thought it was a decent pre-season friendly. There was, as I said, some good, some bad, some very, very average. I think Mikel will be fuming. He definitely would be fuming if it was a Premier League game with the goals that Arsenal conceded. But even in a pre-season game, I think he's not going to be happy about that at all. And he's going to be having some words at how easy both goals were for Newcastle. There was Newcastle took the lead after Arsenal sort of dominated the opening sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes possession-wise. Suddenly Newcastle just got out of their own half so easily. There was no pressure put on them. They sprayed the ball from left to right, got in down the right-hand side very, very easily. I think it was Miles who was out of position, and no one went and closed the Newcastle player down from out wide, cut the ball back, and unmarked Newcastle player scored in the middle. There was no one really around him, even managed to scuff his shot, scuff his finish, and it still went in. But it was just far too easy. It was the type of goal that you kind of look at and think, all right, that's just about allowable in pre-season, but you do that in a proper competitive game in the Premier League, and that's just totally unacceptable. It's just not good enough at all. And you could see David Raya was not happy with how that goal had been scored. And so that was Newcastle 1-0 up at that point. But I thought Arsenal recovered pretty well. They grew into it. They got better as the half wore on, and then obviously scored 2 really, really quick goals. The first one was a lovely goal. Really, really nice. Fair play to Mikel Merino, who was starting in that sort of left 8 position. And he did what Mikel Merino does. He wins his duel. He wins possession back sort of halfway into the Newcastle half. Ball gets fed to Trossard, I think. He pings a nice little pass into Havertz with his back to goal on the edge of the box. And it's really good hold-up play from Havertz. Good touch. Then just knocks it into Marino's path, who's sort of running back towards the penalty area, running in towards the penalty area. It was a great finish first time from Marino. Just curled it side foot into the corner from the edge of the box to make it 1-1. Really, really nice goal from him. And we know he's a good finisher. We saw that last season. He showed that again today. And then within a few seconds, it was 2-1, basically from the kickoff, a comedy own goal from Newcastle. Again, good play from Havertz, whips in the ball from the left. And then the fullback, who knew Bukayo Saka was sort of around him, just a brilliant finish, hoofed it into the top corner to make it 2-1. And that was the score at half-time. Second half, as always, some changes. I think Odegaard came on early in the second half. Did he come on at half-time? But there was a couple of changes. Not sure yet on Calafiori, but he got injured really early doors in the first half. I'll just check because I'm recording this very soon after the full-time whistle's gone. I'm just seeing if any of the there's been any sort of update yet on what the injury is. There hasn't. I don't think he's had his press conference yet, Mikel Arteta. But it didn't look good. He just went down and he was with the physio. You could see he looked a bit disappointed and immediately was taken off. And you hope it's just purely precaution, because it's the last thing you want is any of your sort of main players get injured, but especially someone like Calafiori, who we know the history that he's got. And Mikel's already spoken about the challenge that Calafiori faces this season is staying fit long enough to really be able to make his mark. And so to see him get injured the way he did and go off, he's just like, oh no, please don't be another knee problem that's going to really impact his pre-season and then run on into the season. Obviously, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself there. You're just hopeful it's just purely precaution. He's fine. He'll be able to fly to Hong Kong, play in the Spurs game, and everything is fine. So that was a bit of a downer, that early injury to him. There was chances for Arsenal over the next sort of 20 or so minutes. Max Dowman came on with half an hour to go and was just brilliant straight away, getting on the ball, running at Newcastle. His ability to run with the ball and the acceleration while running at the ball is just so exciting. Max Dowman, we just don't have many ball carriers in our squad, which I think is a big reason why Madueke was signed. But Dowman can certainly do that. We've seen it with the goals he scored at youth level and for England and stuff like that. And we saw it firsthand today. Just head down, get the ball, drive away from players because he's so fast dribbling with the ball. First one that he did that, ran from deep inside the Newcastle half, got to the edge of the box, had a shot that was saved by Ruddy. Set about 10 minutes later, he had another one sort of cutting in from the right-hand side, bending a shot towards the far top corner. Again, a very good save from Ruddy, but he was just causing them all sorts of problems. Unfortunately, Newcastle had equalised at that point at the other end of the pitch. Again, a really poor goal. Jacob Murphy allowed to just sort of amble towards the central area around 25 yards out. No one really closed him down, and he pinged a finish into the bottom corner. I thought Zubimendi had a really good game. I thought he had a really good first half, especially Zubimendi. But when I look at his positioning for the first goal, I think he could have been closer on the edge of the box for the cutback. And the second goal, I think he could have tried to get out earlier. So I think that's something he's definitely going to have to work on and be drilled into him from the coaching staff in terms of what he has to do in that defensive midfield position, because it wasn't just him, but it was other players around as well. There's 2, 3, 4 Arsenal players within the vicinity of Jacob Murphy, and yet no one closed him down. It was a nice finish. I think David Wright might be a bit disappointed with letting it go in from that distance. So that was 2-2. But as I said, at the other end, Max Dowman was just running Newcastle ragged every time he got the ball. They looked absolutely terrified of him, and he won the penalty that ultimately won the game for Arsenal. Brilliant play, sort of got the ball right on the touchline, really, really sort of pinned in a couple of players around him, and he just took the ball, skinned a couple of players, got away, got space, drove towards the penalty area into the box, shoving the backs from Joe Linton. Penalty. It's just so exciting. The look on Joe Linton's face, honestly, it just made me laugh. It's just like, who is this kid? How is he doing this to us? And Martin Odegaard stepped up and scored the penalty, which I think is quite an important penalty for him, because he's missed a couple of late. Obviously, missed one against United in the Cup last season, missed one in the shootout a few days ago in Singapore in that stadium. So it's nice for him to score the goal. It was a decent penalty right into the corner. Ruddy went the right way, but couldn't get there, and that was it. 3-2. That was the final score for Arsenal. And as much as they want to try and calm down the hype, and I want to try and calm down the hype, because this is a 15-year-old kid. When you see him come on and have a cameo like this, it's just very hard to keep that sort of hype from bubbling over. He's just such a talented player, and the thing from it is he does just look ready, not to start every single game. I'm not saying stuff like that, but I think when you watch him and the way he takes players on, and he just looks ready. He looks ready to make a mark in some way in the Premier League. So as I said at the start, the big challenge for Mikel now is just how do you get him the minutes that he needs, but also protect him from, coverage for a start, from people talking about him so much and putting unfair pressure on such a young player's shoulders, keeping him out of, older players are basically going to look at him and think, 15-year-old kid, let's kind of not hurt him. That's wrong. No one's going to say how to hurt him, but you know what I mean. They're going to try and rough him up because he's a 15-year-old kid, and you think, well, we can try and sort of bully him effectively on the pitch. So that Arsenal are going to have to deal with that as well. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to deal with when it comes to Max Dowman, but I think they might have to deal with them. Yeah, I'm right. I think they're going to have to deal with him slightly earlier than they probably would have expected, because when you look at what he can do on the pitch, it's very hard to keep a talent like that down and not give him the minutes, because he just looks like he can help Arsenal. And ultimately, that's what you need. You need your players to be good enough to come on and help you win games. And Max Dowman looks like he has the ability right now, even at this age, to help Arsenal win games. And so I think he has to be used, but used carefully, of course. Right, as I said, Viktor Gyokeres was there. Busy couple of days for him, flying into London, flying out of London, heading to Singapore, jumping straight off the plane, basically into a car, getting driven to the stadiums, doing all the sort of content that Arsenal are putting out with him. He must be absolutely knackered. But got there, went out onto the pitch before the game, massive roar went out around the pitch as he went out into the centre circle, was giving everyone a wave, came back off, took some photos and stuff. So it's just brilliant. After such a long saga, and it was a saga, there's no doubt about that. It's just brilliant to see him there, wearing the Arsenal shirt, seeing his name on it for number 14 on the back. Finally, Arsenal have got their man, and it's just really, really exciting. You know, it's we've all wanted it. Some people wanted Sesko, some people wanted Gyokeres, some people might have wanted Ollie Watkins, but it is Gyokeres. He is the guy. He's who Arsenal have chosen, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do. Mikel, when it was announced, talked about his qualities. He said Victor has so many qualities. He is quick. He has powerful presence up front with an incredible goal scoring numbers at club and international level. He brings a clinical edge with a high conversion rate of chances into goals with his intelligent movement in the box, making him a constant threat. Now, Havertz played well today. Two goal assists for him. If you count the second one as an assist, I suppose it was an own goal. I don't think that would technically go down, but it was good from Havertz. Like I said, it was a really lovely hold-up play for the goal. Now, Havertz is going to play plenty of minutes this season. Plenty of minutes. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But it'll be very interesting to see how Gyokeres sort of evolves in the team over the next 3 games, because you think he's definitely going to get some minutes, you would think, against Spurs. I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't, because there's going to be such a demand from the fans over there to see the new signing. So I think he'll play then, and we'll see what he does in the 2 games at the Emirates. Do I think Gyokeres starts at Old Trafford? That's the big question. I don't know. I think that ultimately will be decided by how he performs and what he does and how fit he looks in these next 3 games that Arsenal have got coming up. But really, really exciting to see him on board. He did an interview with the Arsenal website talking about how he just wants to score goals and all that sort of stuff. And there's something about him, I think, when you look at Gyokeres and you look at what he's done to get over here, and he just looks like someone who's very, very hungry and very, very determined to prove a lot of people wrong. And I think that's what really excites me about him, is that he's shown what he can do. He's shown he can score goals. The last 2 seasons, his record is unbelievable, but it's not just that. It's that desire, I think, to prove a lot of people wrong. He's talked about wanting revenge in Premier League because he didn't get a chance while he was over here before. So really excited to see him play. And yeah, that'll be very, very exciting. I'm just looking at some quotes are beginning to filter out from Mikel Arteta's press conference after the Newcastle game. And on Calafiori, he says he felt a little tweak, quote, little tweak. But he does not know yet how serious it is. It wasn't absolutely clear that it was his knee. It looked like it was his knee, but it wasn't absolutely clear. So there was some talks that some people said maybe it was a hamstring injury. So we'll wait and see what Arsenal have to say sort of later on. But that's initially what's coming out from the press conference, is that Calafiori felt, quote, a little tweak. Those are the words from Mikel about him. Right, on Reiss Nelson, as I said, he didn't play today, didn't come on off the bench at all. When you look at the last game Arsenal played in Singapore a few days ago, Nelson came on in that game, played pretty well, had a good impact. It was a decent cameo from him. Didn't happen this time around. I think that tells its own story. We know that Fulham want to sign him. They want to bring him back again. And it's just negotiations at the moment with Arsenal about the exact sort of makeup of that deal, how it's going to work. Is it going to be a loan? Is it going to be a permanent with an obligation to buy? That's all being thrashed out at the moment, and it sounds like it's very much up in the air. There's no clear sort of direction yet on what the nature of this deal is going to be. I think it's a decent deal. I have to say, I think for Reiss, it's good. I think he stays in London. He clearly was quite happy at Fulham last season before the injury. He was showing that he was very, very good for them. So I think that'll be a decent deal for him. Would I prefer it to be permanent right now? I probably would, but I can understand why, if they do decide to to be a loan, I can understand why that would be the case as well, because maybe if he goes there as a decent loan, then his value is going to go up next season. But I'm sure Arsenal will be looking to get some sort of obligation in there, if possible, when it comes to Reiss Nelson, because you don't want to just kick the can down sort of a further year down the line, and then you're in the exact same position again. So I'm sure they'll be pushing to get a good deal. As I said, after Gyokeres had come in, obviously Mosquera is in now as well. I think attention is very much going to turn to getting some players out. Reiss Nelson, Sambi, a couple others as well, and Arsenal will see what they can do there, and then maybe there'll be a chance to go back into the market towards the end and just sort of twinkle a little bit of stardust on the window with one more addition. And I think you all know, regular watchers of this channel and listeners of this channel will know exactly who I mean when it comes to that. But look, that's it from me today. Just a short, sharp one talking about the game and a few other bits and pieces. Thank you, as always, for watching and for listening. I would say I'll be back tomorrow, but I don't think I will be. I will just try and record stuff as and when I possibly can over the next 2 weeks. I've got a couple of pre-recorded shows, the Press Pass show and the Extra Time show with James Benge as well. That one is going to be our season prediction. So that's going to come over the next couple of weeks while I'm away as well. So keep your eyes peeled for stuff from me as and when they do drop over the next fortnight. But until then, have a great day. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing around the world. Enjoy the end of your weekend. And go Lionesses tonight, by the way, before I disappear. Go Lionesses. So much. I know Caldente plays for Spain. So from an Arsenal point of view, obviously you hope she goes well. And I hope she has a good final, but I do hope she loses. I have to say it. We have, Michelle Agermang, Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, everyone who's involved in that from an Arsenal point of view, hopefully is going to be celebrating come the end of the Euros final. So good luck to the Lionesses. Enjoy the game later if you're going to be watching that. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.